Hi friends, we're gonna go over all of the books that I read in 2025. All of those books were sitting up on this cart. I did already record this, but it ended up being over 40 minutes long of footage. And I really want to edit this and upload it today because I've got a lot to do. We're starting over and we're just going to speed run through everything. Starting off strong with Tress of the Emerald Sea. Really good, 5-star. This got me into reading Brandon Sanderson. Now I'm starting Mistborn. This is just fantastic. This is a 10 out of 10 book. Wonderful. Love Brandon Sanderson and his writing, and this book actually was funny too. It made me LOL multiple times, so love it. Powerless and Powerful. This is the novella to this book, in case you don't know. This book got a lot of hype. It was really, really hyped up. The two people that are close to me that read a lot also read this book and loved it. I was extremely disappointed. I'm trying not to go into too much detail, so it's hard not to sound harsh when you're trying to keep things short and sweet. This disappointed me. I think I still gave it a 3.5 to 4 star just because it was good, but I genuinely didn't care for it much at all. It still has, to this day, the #1 most heartbreaking, gut-wrenching line I've ever read in any book in my life. And I think that's what really sealed the deal for me, that the book was still worth the read, was because of the best friend character. That's what the novella is about. After Peyton left, everything that happened to her best friend, Adina, is in this book. Everything that happens from the moment she leaves till the moment they're reunited, right before her tragic end. And I was very disappointed by this book too, because the only thing I really truly loved about Powerless was this character, but for some reason they added some random dude in this book that had zero significance, and I swear they only did it to make the book longer because his POV is half of this book, and it was terrible, and he never comes back in the later books. Moving on. Next, we've got Threadneedle and Shadow Stitch. I loved these. There's a third one called The Hedge Witch that I think is either a prequel or a novella. I haven't read that one yet. I have not heard anyone talking about these books anywhere, on Book Talk, on BookTube, any book girlies, my friends that read. None of them have heard of this series at all, or this author. I think this is 4 to 4.5 star books. These were really, really good to me. I think this was exactly what it needed to be to carry on this story. The one thing I will say about these books is they are slow burns. They are slow reads. If I was in like a cozy, witchy, fall-y mood, I would read these and they were fantastic. And I absolutely loved them, and I would reread them actually. Like I genuinely loved this. And if it wasn't for some of the content, I even would have loved this in like middle school. This is Lightlark and Nightbane. And I wouldn't even consider them a letdown just because of the fact that they are aggressively hated online. I heard about Lightlark in the comment section of a TikTok that had like 3 likes on it and 1 comment, and somebody was like, you gotta read Lightlark, I loved it. And then everything else I saw after that was people being like, that's the worst book I've ever read. I couldn't even get past page 30 because the writing was so terrible, blah, 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 blah. I just knew that Alex Astor was young and that this was like her first fantasy series. And I enjoyed the first one for what it was. Because it was so hated, my expectations were low. So when I did read it, I was like, oh, I'm pleasantly surprised. Like, that was actually entertaining and fun and whatever. And then we got on to the second one, and I'm like, what is this? What's going on? What is this bullcrap? Then I got onto the third one, which I don't even own physically. I have it on Kindle, and it was one of the worst books I've ever read. And again, I'm not trying to hate too much because she's a young author, she's a new author. Like, I could never write half as good as she writes. It's just that it was so obvious that it was a filler book because this was supposed to be a 3-book series and she signed for it to be either like a 4 or 5 after they started to gain popularity. So it feels obvious that she's just trying to milk it and she's just trying to get as much as she can out of the series, and it's so unfortunate when people do that. There's also novellas, more than one, about the men in this series. I don't think the men are good enough to even be part of the main plot of the series, yet somehow they are the entire plot. So I gave this maybe like a 3 or 4 star because it was entertaining, and then the rest of these maybe like a 2-3 star because I was generous. But they're all like, this is a 3 star, these are all 2 and 1 star. It was just so bad. Divine Rivals, 10 out of 10, 5-star book. I spent maybe 10 minutes going on about this book the first time I recorded this around, so I'm gonna really try to keep it short. This is one of my favorite books I've ever read. the best romance book I've ever read. Romance, romantasy, fantasy, like I adore this book with my whole heart because I love their love story so much. It was really cool to see other main characters long and yearn for each other. It didn't feel like it was driven by lust. The character's love towards her is just so pure and sweet and from his soul, and he is just drawn to her in every single way possible. And you know that cover that Hozier did of the song where it's like crawling back to you? If that song had a physical book form, if that song was gonna be in a book, it'd be this one. If that song was any character, it would be Roman Carver Kit. If that song had a physical form, it would be this dang book. When I tell you, every single time I hear that line from that song, I think of Roman Carver Kit. I'm telling you that Roman Carver Kit is in the garden waiting to marry you. That gives me goosebumps. I get so passionate about this book, as you can see. Well, obviously this is not stacked in order, but I read every single book in the Throne of Glass series except the last two, which I got for Christmas, so I will be starting to tandem read those. But this entire book series is a 5-star. I put it off for so long, like many do, because it's a long series. It's thousands upon thousands of pages. It is very intricate. There's a lot happening, a lot going on the entire time. My all-time favorite book from the series was Heir of Fire. In Heir of Fire, it introduces so many plots and new characters. Heir of Fire is the book where things start to get really complicated, and if you don't pay attention, you will get lost so fast. And I've never seen an author have so many subplots, so many side characters, and it not get lost in the sauce. Like, genuinely, I've never seen an author do it so well, and I get why people love Sarah J. Maas now. I couldn't stand ACOTAR. I didn't finish the first book because it did not draw me in, and I frankly have zero interest in reading it. But once I read this, the Throne of Glass series, I finally understood why people love Sarah J. Maas so much. She is a phenomenal author. I don't understand how anyone could do it better than she did, to be honest. Speaking of getting lost in the sauce and a bunch of subplots that no one can keep up with, let's talk about Iron Flame and Onyx Storm. I read the first book, Fourth Wing, when it had just started to gain popularity, so I hadn't heard anything about it yet. But it's War College, dragons, and I was locked in. I was like, I'm ready. A war college for dragon riders. I'm sold. I love the magic school, war college. Like, I love the academic fantasy. And I loved that first book, and I didn't have any writing critiques for her, nothing, because that's the book that got me back into reading in my adulthood. So, I'm sure you could imagine, I was so excited when Iron Flame came out, but it's so thick, and people were saying immediately that they were so disappointed that I put off reading it for a very long time until Onyx Storm was about to come out. So once I finished this, it was right after this came out. So I was able to jump right into reading this immediately. Therefore, the two books blend together a lot in my brain. So much happens, too much happens actually. The entirety of both of these books did not know what was going on. Especially in Onyx Storm, when they start traveling to different lands, I'm like, where are we? I was lost after they traveled to the one land where they play like this little game that they were forced to play, and somebody got a pet cat and then the next kid got murdered. Like, after that, I was just like, I'm lost. And then Xaden, I think is his name, he finds his mom on that planet or in that land. I think it was the same land. I don't know. And she makes him chocolate cake and he gets mad, and I was lost after that. Like, genuinely, I have no idea what happened after that. I don't even remember how it ended. Since I mentioned war colleges and stuff, I read the first 3 books of the Zodiac Academy, and I first started reading the first book of my own free will because I heard about it and it sounded like my jam. You know, magic school, that's my jam. And then I'm on chapter 1 and I'm like, what is this? What is this writing? What is going on? I instantly was like, this is awful. And so then I didn't read it. And then my coworker, months later, started reading the series, and she's on like book 5, and she's like, girl, you gotta read this series. Mind you, I had no idea it was like a 13, 14 book series, okay? And I'm just like, are you sure? And she's like, yes, I'll send you a screenshot of the reading order that I'm reading it in, and you can read it in the same order as me. I read the first 3 and I never got past that because I didn't like it at all. And I really tried. Quickly, A Harvest of Hearts, super freaking weird book. You want me to sum up how weird this book is? At one point, the main female character talks about how she sees this man that is just so unearthly gorgeous that she wants to suck on his limbs like cinnamon sticks. Not in a sexual way. She's just really weird and out of pocket. So she would say the most strange things. At one point, she talks about how there's like these witches and stuff that come into town and seduce men and take them away. And then when they bring them back, they're not the same as they were before and they're like suicidal. Crazy, right? And she's like, they were enchanted by their cunnies. And I'm like, clutching my pearls. What are you talking about? So the writing is super weird. The dialect is super weird. It's not hard to read. Like, it's not hard to understand, but it's really, really weird and out of pocket and kind of borderline uncomfortable sometimes. But there's a talking cat. There's a magic house. There's a sorcerer named Sylvester. I feel like Sylvester should be the cat, but he's not. I like it, and I like that the main female character isn't some like dainty, delicate, I'm somehow the most beautiful woman ever, but I'm a peasant. Like, not like that. Her name is Foss, and she is like this like dirty, rough around the edges, like kind of brute. She's like the butcher's daughter, and I just love that. Like, to me, I picture her as being like short, kind of plump and round with like red messy hair and dirt smudged on her face constantly, and she's just awkward and not even remotely ladylike, and she's strong, probably stronger than the sorcerer himself. She could probably lift him with one arm, like, and I picture him being like this tall, pretty, scrawny dude, and I'm just like, that's really funny to me. So I love that dynamic, and she's really cool. Like a 4-star. This I can't really give my take on because I haven't finished reading it yet. It's so far exactly what I was worried it was gonna be, which is a dark smut. And that's not at all what I wanted from this book, but I expected it. And so I'm disappointed but not surprised. So I probably won't even end up finishing this book, which is crazy because this is one of my favorite books I read this year, and this is the first one. It's hilarious. The main female character has so much trauma and so many issues. She's borderline suicidal, all of these different things, but she's hilarious because she is if Gen Z was a person. If Gen Z could be represented by one girl, it would be her. So I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. I think the banter, her inner monologue, it's all so funny. I loved all the twists and turns, and I loved the plot twists. The plot twist at the very end, I was like, how did I not guess that? I'm so stupid. But I loved it, and I thought it was fantastic and hilarious. And in this one, we already have a smut scene about 6 chapters in, if that, of 2 male characters in the shower together, and I'm just like, my problem is that we're only a few chapters in, I've gotten no inner dialogue from her that's funny, and we're already having full-blown intimacy scenes, like full intimacy scenes. There's only one intimacy scene in this book that's a full scene, and it's at the very end, so you can just skip that whole chapter, because you can already guess what's happening. If that is your cup of tea, you're gonna love this, because this has none of the comedy that I came here for and stayed for. It has only the smut scenes after over 10 chapters. I'm like 12 chapters in. So anyways, that was disappointing for me. For some people though, that's totally their cup of tea. So good for you, girl. Not for me though. Wings of Starlight is another book that I read on Kindle. Again, one of my favorite books that I read this year. It's definitely a book that I could have read in middle school, but it was one of the most satisfying books I read all year because I made a whole video about it, so you can watch it if you really care about my opinion for some reason. It was fantastic. It was everything it needed to be. It's about Queen Clarion and Lord Mallory from Tinkerbell and their love origin story, and it's so good. That, I think, is it. Here are some more books that I read strictly on Kindle and my quick little how many stars I gave it. Obviously, I'm not giving my full thoughts on them because I can't remember them all at the moment. I think that there was a lot of really good, solid 5-star books from this year. I mean, the entire Throne of Glass series to me was 5 stars, so that already was a lot more 5-star books than I was ready to read. It was a great year. Right now, I'm over halfway through Alchemized. I started Mistborn. I will be tandem reading the rest of this series, so it's there's a lot of good things to come. I'm excited for 2026's reading list, but that's all, and thank you for taking the time to watch this. I would love to hear your thoughts on some of these books as well, and hopefully I will see you next time. Bye.